Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Minding My Mental Health. I am Tenitria Williams, licensed professional counselor and mindset coach, and I am so excited that you are joining me today. You guys know what I want you to do. I want you to hashtag live and let me know where you are watching from. You will know you're watching live because it will have the word live at the top of your screen. If you are catching this as a replay, hashtag replay, and again, let me know where you're watching this from. Again, this is Minding My Mental Health. Our goal is to bring awareness about mental health issues and to tear down the stigma around mental health treatment and understanding how we can be better as a people. I have two amazing guests. I'm really excited about today's topic. We're talking about parenting children diagnosed with autism. And so I want everybody to go ahead and just give a shout out and a welcome to Dr. Edwin Strickland and to the Autism Fairy, Wyletta Dilworth Johnson. So thank you both for coming. We're going to give people just a few moments. So if you two will do me a favor, share this broadcast to your page, to your groups, to whatever, because we want to, again, spread this word. So as people are jumping on, go ahead and share it, tag. If you're watching, let us know where you're watching from and all that good stuff. We're going to take just this quick second to get this out there. It should be on my page, so you guys could share that. All right.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get started. If anybody's on here, again, make sure you're tagging friends, family. If you know of a parent who has a child that has been diagnosed with autism, tag them now. Go ahead and tag those people. I know several people were tagged in on the flyer. And so if you know of people that would be able to benefit from this, go ahead and tag them now. Why? Because we want to get the word out to the people who really could benefit from it, right? So who else we got? You're over here tagging people. Wyletta, good job.
I shared it to my page and to our FOC page.
Okay, there we go. So let's get started. We're not going to hold these people hostage. I want to get into the conversation because I'm really excited. I think I'm going to learn a lot. I'm hoping our audience will learn a lot. And let's get into this. So the first thing is tell us, kind of introduce yourself and tell us about your child or children who have been diagnosed with autism. Kind of give us a little bit about their personality and all that kind of stuff. So we'll start with Wyletta.
Okay, so my name is Wyletta Dilworth Johnson, known as the Autism Fairy. My son Darius, he is 22 years old. So whatever you could possibly think of, we've experienced it. Darius is a sweetheart. Like, I'm not saying that because he's mine. He literally is a sweetheart. He's a teddy bear. You know, he's kind, he's loving, and he's just amazing. I have learned so much from him. It has definitely been a trial and error, but it's in the end, it's a big blessing.
And Darius has a smile that literally lights up the room. When you see Darius smile, you're like, oh my gosh.
And the story behind it, I told him when he was 4, when we first get into this lifestyle, is what I call it. I said, always smile and be happy. Now, if I were to yell out right now, always, he would say, smile and be happy. And he is literally always smiling.
Every time I've ever seen Darius, it is that big cheese. I mean, big, and you just have to smile when you see him.
Right, it's contagious.
All right, now Pastor Edwin, Dr. Edwin, Dad.
Yeah. So greetings, everybody. My name is Edwin Strickland, and my child that we're talking about today, I have 5 children, and basically what I know now is, all 5 of them, including me and my wife, we all probably are on the spectrum somewhere. But in particular, when we talk about Jordan was diagnosed actually with Asperger's when she was 2. Since that time, they've collapsed that title into DSM-5, and now it's just autism that represents the spectrum. But Jordan is 19 years old today, and it's been amazing to see the journey that she has made. When Jordan was 2, after having 3 other kids, we noticed that she wasn't hitting some of those milestones that some of our other kids were hitting. And so because I spent so much time in the field of education, and I had worked in public schools and charter schools, I had worked with special education, was actually a special education designee at one point. So I knew a little bit about what I was looking at, and what I was seeing was something that was different than we had seen in our other kids. And so we took Jordan to the Smeeting Center, and they ran lots and lots of different tests and different things. And that's when they came back with the diagnoses that she was Asperger's high functioning, although she did have some communicative disorders. And so that was the thing that really got us on the path of trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Because the doctors at that time, she was born in 2008, so we're talking 2010, they were just basically kind of saying, that's just how it's going to be. She's probably not going to do well in school. And, you just kind of have to plan for, how you're going to take care of her. And that's a hard thing for a parent to hear, that you have a 2-year-old child and you got to start planning for how they're going to be taken care of the rest of their life. It's almost what it sounded like they were saying, that she wasn't going to be able to learn. She probably may not be able to be independent. She may not be able to talk. In fact, one doctor told us she would never speak because she really, at that time, didn't say much. And at that point, you got 2 choices. You can accept that, or in our case, God had told us something different. So it was like, which one do you believe? And so that's how our journey started.
So Wyletta, I see you shaking your head a lot. Go ahead and jump in there.
You had some kind of idea. For me, it was like, boom. I remember hearing the word autism once in college. And, like I was telling you, we don't really pay attention because it's not directly affects us. If something doesn't directly, we hear it, but we don't. So I had no prior knowledge of autism, and I was young. And I was like 21 when I had Darius, and he was diagnosed 2.5, 3 years old. So he was still in that. And you are absolutely right. He would never this. He would never that. He would never this. And I believed it because you hear me refer to they. I don't like the days. They said, I'll tell people, don't be a they. They told me he would never this, never that. So I was traumatized, and I felt guilty. Like, oh my goodness, is this, because I always tell people that I haven't always done things as in the book of Genesis. So am I being punished? Is this my fault? No, literally, honestly, that was my thought. Am I being punished for not doing what I was supposed to do? So for a while, it was just, I felt like I was punished. Like, what did I do? I literally had no idea what I was doing. So like you said, it was a thing of going from punished to chosen.
And I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of times when something happens with a child, parents automatically start saying, what did I do? Or what could I have done differently? Or was this my fault? And that type of thing. And so for you to be able to shift that and go, wait a minute, I can't get stuck in that mindset of guilt and, that kind of stuff. I have to be able to move forward. Now, you both have kind of talked about this. How did you begin to process hearing that diagnosis? You say you were traumatized. How did you get from the place of being traumatized to let's move forward?
Well, first of all, I think that a lot of times we are in our own way. We're in denial about things, or like I said, that's what they told me. So, you have to be careful what you put in the atmosphere, because people will believe it, and they'll adjust to that because that's what they were told, especially for my case with having no experience. So it was just like, I just felt like, okay, listen, once I got out of we're punished and realized we were chosen for this, instead of why me, why not me? There's a reason that I'm in this, so I can either live by what people say, or I can change the narrative, or I can be like, okay, this is our life. What are we going to do with it? Looking at my child, that I love more than life, and think, okay, he deserves a life just like everyone else. But don't get it twisted. It was a process. It was years of feeling this way. And then I feel like the light bulb came on, like, now, wait a minute. If you're chosen, you got to live this to the best of your ability. He deserves a fantastic life like everyone else. But it was definitely a process of how I got out of it, being like, okay, listen, he deserves the world just like everybody else. He deserves the things like everybody else. So that's how I was like, okay, I got it. We can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think for me, I started working in the field of education in 1996. So as a teacher, I had students who had diagnosis as Asperger's or autism or some of the sensory disorders. As I progressed from being a teacher to being an assistant principal to a principal and a special ed designee and those things, I sat in meetings across from parents where they were being explained, what is autism? What are the expectations that we would have of your child? What kind of, and it's a spectrum. So no one case is the same. And so I used to sit in meetings and I would see the shock, the horror, even in parents' face. And I was the person sitting across saying, hey, let's think of it like this. If your child couldn't hear, we get them hearing aids. If your child couldn't see, we get them glasses. If your child's arm was broke, we get them a cast. Autism is Asperger's is nothing different than the idea that there's something different about them and that we have tools that can help them. And I had my speech down. It was pat. I would give it to parents. They would feel a lot better. But it's different when you're sitting on the other side. They're talking to you about it being your child. Because now when it's your child, you have to now think about all the conversations you had with other parents and try to process that for yourself. And that hits a little different. But I was at least, I heard Ms. Johnson say that she wasn't aware of, what this thing even was. I did have some background about what it was, even though I didn't know what it would be like to have a child of my own who had that diagnosis and the things we'd have to do. I didn't have to deal with the trauma of, because I heard a lot of parents say that, what did we do wrong? Did we did we feed them something wrong? Did I do something wrong when I was carrying them?
Take some medicine,
It's something is it something in our genetics? And so I've sat with parents through that. So I didn't have to battle that part of it, but I did have to battle this part of, okay, can I do enough to make sure that this child gets a chance to experience the brilliance and happiness of life that every other kid is supposed to experience? So that was always my thing, making sure that I was doing enough, that I was reading enough, I was studying enough, I was listening. And when I tell people all the time, when you listen to an expert, you better listen to 10 of them, because you're gonna learn 10 different things. But you better listen to them and be able to synthesize the information that is best for your child and how it works. No expert can tell you exactly what to do for your kid. They can tell you a lot of things that have worked, and then you try them and you figure them out and you work them. And the ones that don't work, you expel them. And the ones that do, you hold on to them.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wyletta.
You have to customize it for you. But I was just thinking, I would give anything to have that person say something like that to me. Like the people that I was interacting with, they knew no more than I did. They had no clue. They were just giving me those long medical terms that they didn't understand, and I didn't either. If I had somebody from the gate like that, so I had to go into those meetings defensive, because they didn't know. They didn't know the tone. They didn't know. And so I would have given anything to have that person. So that's why I try to be that person now.
That's good. Yeah.
You were saying having those conversations at school because you were on the administrative or the school side. Tell me, going into this, questions for both of you guys, how did you advocate for your child in school? Because they do need special, resources or tools and skills. Tell me how you went into those meetings advocating for your kids.
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, for me, again, I kind of had a leg up in the sense that I knew what services schools could provide and what services they may not tell you they could provide. So I knew those. So when I went into those IEP meetings, even when they first did her initial they did her initial assessments and came back and with all these different things, before they even really got started, I said, so here's what we're looking for. And so I started the meetings. So I started the meetings that way. Now, I will say that I lived in the Springdale, still live in the Springdale School District. They were very, very accommodating, not just for me. I don't think they did it for me because they knew that I was an administrator in the district right beside them or whatever the case may be. I think they had a genuine heart to see children who had any SPED diagnosis, whether it was speech only, 504, a full-blown IEP, whatever it was, occupational therapy, whatever they needed, I feel like the school wanted to provide that. So when it came to advocating, I've talked to parents who literally had to get lawyers in order to get what they needed for their children. That wasn't our experience. They would ask us, what do you think Jordan needs? And we would talk about what we see at home. We would talk about what we've studied. I knew from being a special ed designee things that I've seen teachers do that worked for kids who were similar to Jordan. One of the biggest things I think that really turned it around for us is when she went to middle school. It's when they start to transition where students have to take notes from like an overhead or from a board. And Jordan's sensory perception, it was such that if she looked down to take a note and then look back up, she was losing her space. And that was causing her to be frustrated. It was causing her to get behind. So I called for an emergency IEP meeting, and we had one. And I said, teachers got to give her the notes. Whatever notes the teachers are preparing, they need to have those notes prepared so that at the end of that lesson, Jordan gets those notes. You can give them to her electronically. You can give it to her written. However you want to do it, to have it, because I need her to be able to be engaged in the lesson, not bobbing back and forth, getting lost in the lesson. And that was the only time they was kind of like, well, we don't know. And I go, well, this rights to know says you do know, and when you present it to them and you know, and trust me, word gets around. So it's like, okay, when he comes to the meeting, this is what he's going to ask for. He's not going to ask for anything outside the realm of these four corners in this rights to know document. So if he asks for him, we need to give it to him. And so principals started to say those kind of things.
I want you to share, and Wyletta jump in there as well. What are some things that if parents didn't, because you kind of came from an educational perspective, what are some things that parents may not know that they can ask for?
Well, I would just like to, I think it's interesting how we are on two different sides. Like you had that, me, the total opposite. Well, but for me, it was like I advocate. I had to learn myself. I had to teach myself. I had to read that idea book. I had to, learn it for myself. And where parents understand that I need somebody, I say, you are going to have to be that somebody. Nobody is going to be able to advocate like you. Nope. You're going to have to learn. You're going to have to know what questions to ask. Now, me, like you said, that's why I started laughing, because now word gets around. They know if I call, it's something. Like as they say nowadays, she has receipts. Something is not right. This is what, and you have to be bold enough and not intimidated to ask questions, or to say, hey, I don't understand that. A lot of parents don't think they have a say in that meeting, but they have the say in the meeting, but they don't, if they're not educated, they don't know that, or if they're intimidated, they won't ask those questions. But you really need to know is if you don't agree with something, you don't have to sign. That's a legal document. You don't sign it. And as far as my area, like you said, you had people that I did not, it was like nobody wanted to deal with us. We don't know. Let's just move along. It was just like they didn't care. And so through that, I had to be the mama bear. I said, mama bear, it's exhausting being the mama bear. I don't want to call and they be like, oh, they calling the superintendent, Miss Johnson's coming. I don't know what she's coming with, but it's credible, because I don't need favor, but you're going to be fair. I don't need favor from her, but you're going to be fair. And that's what I'm all about. So they see me coming, they're like, uh-oh, okay. She knows this. I even had someone tell me that someone asked, how did she know to ask that question? So you need to let them know that I know what I'm talking about. I know what you are and are not supposed to do. I know that I don't have to sign that if I don't agree with it. I know that I have a right to be here to have my voice. But it's intimidating at first because you don't want to use your voice. You don't know your voice, but you have to find your voice and advocate for your child, because nobody else is going to do it like you're going to do it.
And that, that hearing that actually, it breaks my heart, because realistically, my wife and I, we've lived in this city that we've lived in for like 22 years now, or something like that. Or maybe even longer. We live in our current house, I think, for like 22 years. And our kids have all matriculated through this particular school district. And we wanted to leave and move and go different places. But they were so accommodating and so forward thinking about how to service all students. We had a superintendent, Dr. Jim Rollins, who hammered it in all of his assistant superintendents, in all of his principals, who hammered it in all of their all of their assistant principals and teachers, that we were going to take care of these children, that they were not going to be kids that we just sent down to out of the classroom down the hallway. It was one of the first school districts that really went to a full inclusion model to really keep these children in the classroom and send SPED teachers into the classroom, so that these children were being taught on grade level. So we literally stayed in our school district. We stayed in this city because of what they were providing for Jordan.
If I were in the early stage of it, I literally would be like, okay, I'm moving. Like I would literally move seriously.
They actually moved to the Springdale School District, the Fayetteville School District, the Bentonville and Rogers School District, those 4 particular districts in particular, for that very reason. They literally moved for that reason, because the word has gotten out that they really do service students who are designated as what is SPED title in the same manner that they do their GT students.
Now we found our way. Now we ran into some teachers that are like, horrible. I'm just going to be honest. Yeah. And that we run into some that we still talk to. We still talk to this kindergarten teacher. We still talk to those people. We call them our forever teachers. So we did run into some really good people. But if you're not strong enough to get through those, weed your way through, then you'll give up.
So what I'm hearing is, number one, be willing to advocate. Be willing to do the research yourself so that you know how to advocate when you get into those meetings. Are there specific resources or something that helped you? Like this place gave me a lot of knowledge, or was it just like scrolling online, sifting what's good and what's credible? How did you find the resources?
So for me, one of the things I tell parents, and you have to offer it at every IEP meeting. You have by law, they're required to offer you a pamphlet, Your Rights to Know. They say, do you want this book? And most parents go, nah, I'm fine. That book is your Bible when it comes to advocating for your child.
Rights to Know.
You don't have to take one every time, but you need to have one in your possession. And anytime it's updated, you needed the latest one. That IEP manual became like a Bible for us. Because if you don't know, it's like Ms. Johnson said, when you go into that meeting, it's not their meeting. It's your meeting. It's your meeting about your child. And while that meeting has been called by the school because they have certain rules and regulations and laws they have to comply with in order to have those meetings at certain times of the year, that is your meeting. It is, if you don't understand something, you ask. If teachers feel like they're running behind, so what? We'll stay here all day until I get every question answered. If you got to go hire a sub and put a sub in that classroom because I need that English teacher in here to discuss this English class and what's happening with my child, y'all do what you have to, but we're here for this meeting for my child. And until you get that kind of tenacity, schools are trying to get through with these. They're trying to get through. They got 30 kids, 60 kids, 90 kids. They're trying to run through and get through with these meetings. But I was never concerned about the 89.
I was sitting in the chair like this, like, you know, and you say that. And what's funny to me is it was something that was going on. And I through prayer and praying, that's the only way we made it to this point. And it was something they wanted. And I said, I gotta pray about this. Well, if you don't sign it today, we're gonna have to come back. And I said, well, I will see you tomorrow. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. And we came back the next day after I had, thought about it and prayed about what I needed to do. And that ended up being the best. That's when we ran into those loving teachers that we love, because I didn't just say, okay, they're in the hearing. I said, well, I'll see you tomorrow. And I got up and I walked out, and they came back the next day. And one other thing that parents need to understand, Mr. Strickland, you brought it up earlier, was like, if I want to call a meeting tomorrow, we gonna have a meeting tomorrow. Like, if I feel like I want to have a meeting, I'm gonna call one, and you have to do it. I hire a sub, let the rest of the school out. I don't care. But I want a meeting.
I love that. I love that.
It's not that you want to be a bully, and I've always tried to accommodate. If I need to have a meeting, they say, oh, well, Miss So-and-so is off tomorrow. That's fine. We can do it this day. I mean, I've always tried to be accommodating in those kind of things. Or if they were in the middle of testing, I would say, okay, well, when y'all finish state testing, let's do it the next week. Or they're doing an interim assessment, But what you're not going to do is tell me in August that you can't meet with me to December. And that's what we're not going to do. So parents know you have rights. When some people don't even like the label of your child being sped. But when your child gets that label, there are some rights that come with that in fact, I remember one time they wanted to dismiss Jordan because she had done so well. They wanted to dismiss her from some of her hours and from some of the nope, we want that assistance. We are not letting that go. Because if she needs it, she may not need it this semester, but what about next semester when she gets into algebra 2? We're keeping it. And so we kept those things in place. In fact, Jordan's a freshman at ORU. When we knew she was going to RU, we contacted rehabilitation services. We were like, hey, she's coming. This is what she's going to need. She needs this, this, and this. And of course, now, because she's older, she has to advocate for herself. But we can tell her what to advocate for. And she can still have those meetings for herself now that she's over 18.
Now, both of your children are over 18. So I would love to know how you trained them or taught them to begin to advocate for themselves.
Well, as far as Darius, he still needs quite a bit of assistance in that area. I actually had to get a guardianship for him because, he is not able to make those serious decisions and choices for himself. So, but whenever I do something, he's right there. I don't leave him at home. He is right there and he understands what they're saying. He may not let you know he understands. But he does. But it's just the point that he's always been the forefront. This is Darius. I'm living with autism through my son, but I want you to see who he is. I want you to see exactly what autism is. So I'm a little different because I have to, had to get guardianship. And parents need to understand if your child is not able, you have to get guardianship. And it is not cheap. It is not cheap. And it's a process. So when they get about, what did they tell us, 16, 17, you probably need to get started on that. Because like in my case, he can't make those decisions, or he doesn't understand, or let me change that. He don't let you know that he understand and that he can make those choices. So I still, have that. But anything we do, he's right there. Like I do a lot of traveling with the police department. The new officer training or the TI training, we're there and he's there, and he got to where he speaks. He likes to talk to him to see, this is what autism really is. So as far as advocating, he's right there with me. Everything that we do, he's right there.
Yeah, I think for us, what we've tried to do with Jordan is to explain why we do certain things. And then ask her questions about it, and then give her opportunities to fail in a safe space. And what I mean by that is, if we've taught her something, she's 13 or 14, then we give her an opportunity to see if she can do it, so that if she doesn't do it right or she does it totally wrong, she's doing it with our assistance there to be able to catch her. And so we're still doing that. Literally just yesterday, Jordan was on fall break. We took her back on Sunday, and she had to go to a meeting with her advisors at ORU in order to talk about next year. And they wanted her to sign some document. And Jordan, the rule is, if I read it and don't understand it, I don't sign it. I call somebody first. And so she was in a meeting. And they was like, well, we just need you to sign this. And she was like, well, I'm not sure about, how Jordan is. She's like, I'm not sure about this. She's like, let me text my dad. And I guess they kind of got not really irritated, but they was like, come on, you just need to sign this. She was like, nope, my dad didn't answer. I'll come back tomorrow. And she left advising. I talked to her that night. We talked about it. And all they really wanted to do was access her major. But they had, but she didn't understand that. And she was like, I don't sign it, because she knows now that at 18, anything that she signs, she becomes legally responsible for it. So we've explained that to her. So she was like, I got to talk to my daddy first. And so when she called me, I said, oh, yeah, you can go back and sign. That's fine. They just want to be able to access your thing because they want to build your schedule for next year. She said, okay. And she went back to the next day and signed it. And so we want her to be able to just learn those things. But at the same time, you have to give your children, at whatever stage they are in, opportunity to fail in safe spaces. It's the only way they get to learn.
Okay, so I have go ahead.
Process though. Like people think it may take us 2 years to do something else. So you have to start early. Like
do.
you have to start early on that. So
And often. And you know, we used to tell people all the time what it takes Jordan 50 times to learn. Another kid may learn it after 2 times. You
mm-hmm.
know, and so our model has always been all kids can learn, just not at the same rate. And so
Right.
once we got that established, then we weren't trying to compare her to Chase or compare her to Caleb or to Kanan or to Taylor. She was Jordan, and whatever it took for Jordan is what was necessary and is what was okay.
Okay, so here's my question. At what point do you say, I have to push them? And at what point do you say there is and I'm trying to figure out how to ask the question, but there is a reason that's holding them back. So I don't want to push too hard. Like, how did you as parents kind of figure, because I know both of you, I've watched the journey. I'm more familiar with Jordan, but I've watched Darius graduate and go to prom and like do these different things, right? So there was still some level of, let's get them out of their comfort zone. How did you guys decide when we push and when we don't push?
So in hindsight, I wish I had pushed more. And here's what I mean. I was so concerned about making sure I didn't push that there were times I probably should have that I didn't. I remember in particular when Jordan was in the 7th grade. She was going to 7th grade. She was in the 6th grade, going to 7th grade, her second year of middle school. Her teachers came and they was like, listen, we've read the file. We saw the reports from Smeeting when she was 2. We've seen the kindergarten IEPs. We've seen 1st, 2nd, 3rd. They said to us, this is not the same child. It just is not. She is in an inclusion class and she doesn't need help. She's helping other kids with math. We need to put her in the advanced, it was the pre AP class for 7th grade. And I remember arguing with my wife saying, no, because she's going to get in that class. They're not going to help her. And she's going to feel bad about herself. And that was my thing. I can be honest and say I was protective of Jordan. I didn't want her to feel bad about herself. I didn't want her to feel like she couldn't do it. And I would fight a bobcat if you're going to make my baby feel bad. But Jordan saw something, and she looked at me and she said, is the problem you don't think I can do it? I was like, no, I think you can do it. And she said, well, then let me try. And that girl made straight A's in that class. And so there were probably times, and Sean and I talked about it, there's times that we should have made Jordan try more stuff. We should have made Jordan go more places. We should have made Jordan interact with more people because she still has some of the social things that you see in students with autism, you know, and we should have pushed her more with that instead of just letting her get comfortable and not interacting. You know, I mean, like at church, it'd be time to go out to eat, and Jordan said, I want to go home. So we would take Jordan home, forcing her to be in those situations. So it's a balancing act. You probably wouldn't find a parent who could honestly say, oh yeah, I think I did it perfect, because hindsight's 2020. You know, you're like, I should have pushed there, or maybe I shouldn't have pushed there. Or so for me, I think you just do the best you can with what you have at the time. I don't know another way to say it.
Pastor Sean said in the comments, it was him. I made her try.
Yeah, she did. She would make her try more things.
Well, I would say when I realized I needed to let the hug lease up, you know, like that, was when he was 2. And, you know, they said he was nonverbal. So he would just, and I knew exactly what he wanted. And sometimes it's just this feeling. You just have this feeling of you get it or you don't quite understand what I'm saying. So I don't push as much, you know, it's just honestly this feeling. But when he was 2 years old, he wanted something. And I was like, I said, dearest, I'm not getting off this couch until you tell me what you want. That made no sense. My child didn't talk. And he went, I want something to drink. And I was like, oh my God, you know, like, I said, not only did he say he had his mama's attitude when he rolled his eyes, like, I want something to drink. And I was like, are you kidding me? So then it's like, okay, you're playing. So I'm in the way. Like I said, when we first started, I'm in the way. So it was just a push to get him to do that. And like people would be like, well, I know you probably remember when he was eating them Cheerios under the pew at church really loud. He would be under the pew from where up under the pew eating Cheerios. at church till now he's singing in the choir. Now he's doing praise dances. So it just get him involved. And if you can kind of, if he's anxious, then I'm like, okay, that's pushing too much. But if he's like excited about it, you have to, a lot of people say, well, we can't go to the movies. Have you ever been? No. I said, well, how do you expect them to know how to do it if you never take them? You know, you never take them. Next time you may go 5 minutes, next time 10 minutes. Now he love to go to the movies more than anybody. But it's just those opportunities to teach them how to push through the fear and push through, what you're going through. And then there are times when you're like, okay, that's too much. So it's just really like trial and error. Yeah. It's just keep trying, don't give up, keep progressing, keep paying attention to, okay, well, what do I need to do to help him not get overstimulated? Or I need to know. And then like transition is a big for people with autism. So, okay, we're going to Walmart. I have a picture of Walmart. This is Walmart. We're going to go here. And we got, sometimes you have to let them see ahead of time what they're going to do. And if you do that, it'll get easier. If they know what's coming next, it'll be easier for them to be able to do it. And, it'll help with you being scared that you're pushing too much. It's just having to know, because Darius would associate what side of the road we were on to where we were going. So what happened if I passed somebody? He'd be like, Granny. And I'm like, oh, nope, you're going to school. That specifics. So if you, just to transition, the planning, I still do it. I'm like, Darius works. He's been on his job for 3 years. He does janitorial work at the co-op. And I used to work there, but now I drop him off and he has to call me when he's done. They'll call and say, why are you calling me? Well, Darius, I said, Darius is supposed to call me. So now they call me. They're like, why? His phone died. That's why I'm calling, because they know I'm going to say, why are you calling me? He needs to be calling me. So he'll call. And this is something that I'm still dealing with. And I had to say, Wyletta, get out of his way, because he likes to stay at home now by himself. And I was like, Lord, and at first I was like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And I'll tell him, have that phone. If I call you, I want to check on you, make sure you're okay. So I turn the alarm on, because you're grown, but you're not grown. So I turn the alarm on and I'll say, who are you going to open the door for? And he'll say, Granny. He'll name my siblings, And my mom was like, he's not going to let me in. I'm like, I ain't got nothing to do with it. He didn't call you. But of course they have a key, if they need to get in. But I'm like, I'm just telling you who he said he was going to let in. But I'm still working through that independent. Although he works, he's very independent. I still be like, you can't stay at home. And I was like, whoa, yes, you can. Yes, you can. But it's still hard. And he's 22. I catch myself, need to let go a little bit.
So what are some misconceptions that people have when they hear either just about autism in general, or when they say, my child has autism or has been diagnosed with autism? What are some of those misconceptions that you guys have had to run it or have run into?
I think sometimes you run into people who think that because someone has been diagnosed with autism, that sometimes that means they have a learning disability. And that's not always the case.
Right.
Or you run into people who think that because someone has autism, that they aren't aware of the things that are going on around them, even though they may not be interacting with other people. They're still aware of what you're saying, even about them, and about the same emotions you have about someone approaching you or someone not wanting to approach you for. So they have emotions, they have feelings, and I think I think people think that somehow, because you've seen TV shows like Radio,
Rain Man,
and every child who has autism is not a savant. Some of them just have an average intelligence between 90 and 110. Like 50% of the population does. But some of them are extremely gifted in certain areas. They are savants in some areas. And I just think that the idea is that sometimes people think that, children who have, or people who have autism somehow, I don't want to use the word damage, but they think something's wrong with them.
Yes, that's exactly true. Like I'm all about changing the narrative. people are like, okay, Wyletta, I'm trying to make sure I say it right, because you're going to get a lesson, because it's you're not going to speak that way of my child. What's wrong with him? And I look at Darius, I say, what's wrong with you? He'll say nothing. I said, he said nothing, or they'll say he's slow. And I'm like, okay, Darius, run, so they can see how fast you are. Like, well, he doesn't look autistic. I said, Darius, drool. I don't know what they're looking for. It's just like people say things like that they don't understand. And I didn't mean it like that. How can you?
Well, how did you mean it?
How
Right.
else would that mean? And they're like, I didn't mean it like that. But I'm like, what do you hear yourself? Like, what's wrong with them? I cannot. But I'm to the point where people be like, okay, well, I'm trying to use the right word. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'll help you. Don't worry about it. Because that can damage you. Like, you're setting somebody back, because everybody's not bold and gonna teach you and mindful of what you say. Somebody's not gonna do that. And I tell people, you don't know the statistics of people that kill themselves and their children or whatever with autism. You looking at them like that, you telling them their child need a whooping or you couldn't do it, could be their last straw. So I'm just mindful of what people say, and people may think, well, Darius wear Jordans like everybody else. I'm like, is there an autistic shoe I should be buying? Like, I tell people Darius is bougie. He went from not being able to leave the house without his medicine to he not leaving without his cologne. I'm like, you're going to Granny's. Why you need to smell like Versace? Yes, I said Versace. Because he, like, people think, yeah, but we had to train them, to be that way, to care about your appearance, to care. But he's not wearing nothing but high top Converse. I don't care how much money you spend on him. He got every color there is, because that's just what he likes. But they think they don't have rights, or they don't know how to dress themselves. The way Jared's be dressing on Facebook, he do that, But it's just they think that they're aggressive. They mean they're gonna hit you. No. Darius don't want you to touch him, and he ain't touching you, but no, they're not going to fight you or hit you. They just have this, like, this is one of somebody's like, oh, he's suffering with autism. I looked, I said, suffering? How do I sign up for that list? If you say he's suffering, sign me up, because this kid got it going on. We're not suffering. I've been looking at Darius like, can I sign up for the suffering list, please? Because you're living your best life.
So it sounds like, Wyletta, you have had probably more so than, well, I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Dad. Really fighting negative comments from outside and dealing with people and training them how to interact with you and your child.
Mm-hmm.
Did you face that a lot, Dad?
I didn't really.
I knew I should have moved Springdale.
I think for a couple reasons. How do I say this?
I know you too.
Right. I was trying to be politically correct here, nice on your broadcast, but I think people know that they get a mouthful if they say that to me or to my wife about our child. And you probably did, and I just don't think anybody. I'm not saying people didn't think it. I'm not saying they didn't say it to each other. I'm just saying they ain't never said it to us. I just don't think that would have went over very well. But I understand though, because even parents of autistic children sometimes use that language. And so it's not just like, oh, only people out there who don't have any relationship with autistic individuals are talking like that. If you're not careful, you'll get parents who are uneducated, know, and so Jordan used to have these tics that she would do. And we read somewhere and we changed her diet a little bit. We started doing some different things with her throughout her younger years. And we started to reduce some of those overstimulated things that she would do, when she would do her hands like that or something at different times. And I think one time somebody asked a question, something about, like, they said, does she have Tourette's, or something like that. I guess they knew a word and was trying to ask. And I was like, and so I just said to them, I said, well, has she ever cussed you out? And they was like, well, no. I said, oh, maybe she doesn't have it then. Because you get so irritated. And I know all people with Tourette's don't curse, but it was like, that's what they assumed it was when they saw that. And so you do get frustrated with what I call the dumb questions. But if people ask and they go, why does she do that? Then I can explain to you that it's an overstimulation of her brain, and it's the way that her body releases energy so that she can bring herself back to level set, because she didn't have other tools to know how to manage that until we helped her learn those tools. That's why I say if I knew what I knew today, 19 years ago, I can imagine where she would be right now. But we don't get to do it that way. You know, you don't get to live life backwards. But I totally get what you're saying. Don't suffering from autism. What's wrong with them? All of those things. I didn't get a lot of those, and I think there was a pretty good reason why.
See, I got them early on, like the beginning. But when I woke up, people be like, that's why some people like they're in the restaurant, they don't want to sit by you. I said, some people tell you they don't want to sit by you. Like, I don't want them here. I don't want them. You know, I'm like, for real? Or those people say, well, they're gonna stare. I said, don't you know how to stare? I've been looking at people just like that. They stare in the back. You know, you're not gonna tell me where we can go, where we can eat, or what we can do. You know, but I've had doctors that do that. You know, this doctor told me, and I never forget, my son, 22, he was like 4 then. And I still think about that when I drive by this place. He was like, I can't treat him, because Darius was excited about how the lights were working, how you get them letters on the wall. You know, he was concerned, he was interested in how he's like, I can't treat him. And I'm like, you know, like, is everybody supposed to sit at your like pretty like, what are you expecting? Like, you can't service everybody, but you didn't get my money back though. But you just said you couldn't treat him, you know, or different things like that people just are unaware. And then that was back then. And I really want to go in there and be like, hey, you see my son, this is him now. You know, I would go in there and think, this is who he is. If I had listened to you, he wouldn't have, you know, been those things. But early on, I definitely went through it more than I do now. Now that people think I'm half crazy, they be like, don't say that to her, or watch what you say to her. And that's fine. You can think whatever you think about me, but just understand that I will go to bat for my child. But the interesting thing about me is also I have my 13-year-old has intellectual disability from when I had problems at childbirth. Like, he got stuck in my hip and his oxygen dropped. So it was, and people like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I get up and I do it. Like, what do you mean? This is my life, you know. But it's definitely, I thought it was autism, but he went from not talking to now he don't stop. And I'm like, sir, you know, people don't understand that's not my norm. All that, I'd be like, sir, trailing activate, you know, for real. But that's not my norm. And I'm like, whoa, what is all this talking? And Darius say what he got to say, and he goes on. But he's not that back and forth communication like that 13-year-old. I'm like, I told Dr. Mose, I said, you either gonna up my dose, put him on something, or you can do both. This is a lot. But he does, like, it took me a while, but because I have anxiety, that's what people don't understand. Like, sometimes people, if you have children with different abilities, it you know, your mental health, you have anxiety, you have all that kind of stuff. And I tell people all the time, like, I fill my prescription. They laugh at me when I say it, but I'm like, no, if you need that help, get it. But I could see anxiety in him early on. And I was like, of all the things you could get, you know, that's what it was. But just understanding that it's a lot of mental health concerns that come with my lifestyle. So if you need that help, go get it. And I really hate that I took so long to get that help, because I thought, oh, I got it, because I'm real high functioning anxiety, and I'll be speaking and doing all that, having a whole panic attack, and I would say, I'm having a panic attack. Girl, you crazy. I'm like, okay, but I'm still having a panic attack. Like, they literally didn't believe me. I'm like, okay, I'll be that, but I'm sweating under my arm, you know, everything. But it's just now, and I'm like, wow, I hate that I waited so long to get that.
So what I'm hearing from you, Wyletta, is parents also have to make sure that they are taking care of their own mental health.
Yes,
as they're navigating and going through this journey. Yeah, I have a question for both of you. What therapies or techniques or even mindsets that really helped you to help your child? Were there specific, like, this therapy, they responded really well, or this, once they got this kind of understanding, this really helped? Were there things that you can look back and say this thing or this way of thinking really helped?
Yeah, for Jordan, Jordan's been in speech since she was 3 years old. She's had speech therapy up until the time she graduated high school. It got less and less time per week as she got older and got better and could work on her articulation and those kind of things, comprehension. She had OT early on, and I really wish I could have fought more for OT longer. because she still, her handwriting and stuff still looks like a child sometimes. You know, a lot of kids can't write in cursive. I don't care about that part, but it's the way she holds her pencil, the way she holds utensil. We had to work with the way she used to hold her fork like a shovel, you know, and different things like that. And I wish I had advocated for OT a little longer than that. She's had lots and lots of social skills training. Probably still needs some more. I will tell you that my wife discovered a program, I guess maybe a year ago, called Brain Balance. And Brain Balance has been amazing for Jordan. It's a series of physical exercises that they do, in addition to using like light stimuli and a metronome and different things. What it does is it requires her to have to I don't know all the science of it, but they have to cross that center line in doing things. Like, for instance, a lot of the reflexes that we don't have, we got rid of as children, right? Like when you brush the side of a baby's face, they turn that way. Well, some of those reflexes and different things like that impact her as an adult. One of the things that we realize is why it was difficult for her to drive. When you're driving, you have to use both your left and right brain simultaneously. You have to be able to see the car coming, knowing you're going to hit your brake, and also put your signal on and make the turn. It's a lot going on with that. Mm-hmm. It works well for a lot of us because we don't realize it, but it's because we've broken those innate kind of things that we have as children, responses. And so when she did her initial brain balance, I think she tested, and Sean can tell me if I'm wrong if she's listening, I think she tested around 7 or 8 years old. And this is when she was like 17. And when she went through those first 12 weeks and she got done, I think she was tested around 14 years of age.
That's a big jump, though.
It's a huge jump. So much so that they was like, hey, and a lot of it is that we didn't know about brain balance. We didn't know about those exercises. We didn't know that there was, but you got to remember, so much research has happened between 2008 and 2023.
Right.
The more
someone's asking a question, is it a program or a course?
It is a program, and it's a program. I'll be honest with you, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. But it is a program, and you can research it. It's called Brain Balance. And you can sign up for different levels of it. You can have a coach like multiple times a week or one time a week or no coach at all. But the other thing is Jordan was diligent about her exercises. She did them daily. She recorded everything. Sean says Google brainbalance.com. And for me, that was probably the equivalent of years of OT and PT together. You know what I mean? So it worked great for her,
Okay, so that's a resource that people can look into if you're not familiar with it. Like you said, at least Google it, find out more information. What's this? You can research primitive exercises and have your child to do 5 times a week. Okay, so Pastor Sean was saying you could research some of the primitive exercises.
And that's what I was trying to remember. The primitive responses that we have as children. You have to break those primitive responses. So many of us go through those naturally, but sometimes children who struggle with different things don't. And when they don't, it always impacts them. It's like the idea of if you don't pass one level in life, even though you get older, you still are at that level until you can pass that thing or deal with that thing. And so that's how those primitive exercises work.
So Pastor Sean put in the comments, that's an alternative if you can't afford Brain Balance, maybe trying to Google the primitive exercises. Mm-hmm. What I'll say too is most people are very creative. So if Brain Balance is 5,000, 10,000, whatever, heck, my mama has sold some cookie dough for my brother to get some tutoring that was thousands of dollars. And so also what I would say is if it's something that you think is going to help your child, look for ways to be able to accomplish that. Yeah. Wyletta, what about you? Were there any programs or specific things that you seem to really see a positive response from Darius?
But he did all the therapies that the school could provide: speech, occupational, OT therapy, and when he got older, of course, they do the life skills,
Mhm.
which really helped. But the thing about that is, he was cooking and washing clothes and ironing at school. I ain't know none of that. So when I went to the meeting, I said, he was doing what? He was doing it at school, but at home he's just chilling. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, Darius. She sent me a picture and said Darius is cooking. I said, Darius, who? What do you mean he's cooking? So now it's like that communication is very important to know, hey, he's doing this, because sometimes it's not that he didn't want to do it at home. It was just that was associated with school.
Mm.
And I talk with his job, and they're like, okay, I'm teaching Darius to use a dustpan and a broom and do that. I'm like, okay, I have that at home. Now he'll do it, but he looked at me like, I'm not at work. Why am I doing this at home? But I was helping him to practice so that he could do it. But he was looking at me like, girl, this is not work. Kind of understanding that you can do them both places is still where we are. But yes, but I wrote down those, what you were saying also, because, I do ABA therapy with children with autism in the area, which is, if we had that then, or if it wasn't so hard to get back then, the waiting list, he probably would just be getting on it now.
Mm.
Back then the waiting lists were so, and it's still hard to find therapists because it's got to be in you. You can't just want a job, because it's got to be something that you are willing to do, because it takes time. Like, I've been with child almost 2 years, and it is just amazing what he's doing now.
Mhm.
Because, and I have that. And then when you can see people relax when I say I have a child with autism, I got it, because they're like, I'm so sorry he's doing this to you. I'm like, doing what? My son is 22. I've been there. I've done that. This is a passion.
Mhm.
It's okay. And so to see how far they've come, but people can't do it, or
Can you
don't.
explain what ABA therapy is for people who may not know?
ABA therapy is a therapy that children with autism can get through the word just autism waiver. Um, and we go into the homes and teach them life skills. Like, I work with them in the home. If mom says, hey, I want him to be able to sweep, we work on that. Now, when they're younger, we're just working on labeling. Like, what a TV is. But I have to say, hey, that's a TV. And so it's learning through play.
Mm.
They don't
Okay.
even know that they're learning, but you find a way to make it fun and interesting for them, because they know they're working. They don't want to work. But if they're playing, they're like, okay. So my kid that I'm working with now, he labeling things. You know what a table, a chair, you know how to label those. So
Mhm.
we were playing hide and go seek in one room. You can't hide. But so I had to be creative, and I'm like, oh, he's not behind the curtain, he's not behind the TV, and he would mimic me. So now he knows what all
Mhm.
those are, and we would have to say under the table. We have to be specific on over and under, because those things have to be taught. Whereas
Mhm.
some of us, we just get it, but they have to be taught. But we go into the home, and if mom wants to incorporate brushing her teeth, then we work on brushing her teeth. We're just accommodating them in their space, in their safe space, in their safe place is what we do.
So I have a couple more questions, but we're almost out of time. So I'm going to ask both y'all. Are y'all okay with staying a little bit longer?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this question specifically, Pastor Strickland, you mentioned when the doctor said Jordan wouldn't talk, you said we also had a word from God. So, and I know both of you are believers. What has been the role of faith in helping you on this journey and seeing the success that you've seen? I want you to speak to that.
So, in any situation, the one thing that we always have is the power of choice. It doesn't matter what situation we're in, we have the power to choose how we're going to respond, right? And so when the doctor said that, it was it was gut wrenching. You've got this little baby, because who don't love a 2-year old, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you got this little baby who you have and you want the world for, and for someone who has a medical degree to tell you that this baby may never talk, you may never hear her be able to articulate what her needs are, how she's feeling.
Mhm.
She may not even be able to tell you that she's sick. That was a lot to take in. And so for us, it was like, it's like, what do you do? And so as we were praying early on, the Lord just told us, and I don't know how to explain to anybody else except that you, when you hear something from God, you have to choose to either believe it or not. And God said that this wasn't Jordan's life, that what we were experiencing was not his design for her. And so the choice became, do we believe the doctor or do we believe God? Now, I know the doctor is intelligent. I know that he's seen equivalent cases and he has made similar diagnoses and they have come to fruition. But God said, and then the question is, which one would I rather see? Well, I'd rather see what God said than what the doctor said. So then I choose to believe God. But in doing so, God was like, you need to do everything I tell you to do, right? You need to do everything I'm telling you to do. So I don't want people to go, oh, well, I'm believing God too. We believed God, but we got immersed in what it took to help a child who was diagnosed with Asperger's and then eventually what they called autism. We learned about how to work with her speech. We learned about what it takes for social skills. We learned about diet. We learned about supplements. We learned about vitamins. We learned about environment. We surrounded ourselves with a team of people. And that's one of the things that I hearing Ms. Johnson, I'm going back and I was saying, thank the Lord, that we had such a team of people around us who not only was supportive of Jordan, but they were supportive in our belief that God said Jordan would speak. They cheered for every milestone. When Jordan learned how to ask for water, we cheered about that.
Yes.
For everything along the way, we had people cheering and rooting for us. Until you have this 19-year-old child now who is at college by herself, and so for us, it was just a matter of believing God. Were there times that it felt like it wasn't happening fast enough? Heck yes. Heck yes. Was it frustrating sometimes to see that there were certain things she wasn't getting? Like, I'll tell you something that the Lord told us, and people can say what they want to. I know it came from the Lord because I know it worked. Jordan did not get sarcasm. She didn't. When I say she didn't get it, she didn't get sarcasm. If you had, back in the day, if you had told Jordan, she didn't get sending, like if you told Jordan something like "It's raining cats and dogs," she might literally go outside to see it because it didn't register for her that was just a saying or whatever. Or even recently, right? I'll give you an example, then I'll tell you what I was saying. When Jordan turned 18, 1 year ago from today, past, I said, Jordan, you're 18 today. I said, you got to pack all your clothes and stuff. You got to go. You're 18 now. And she said, oh, wow. Okay. She said, I thought I would have a little more time. And I said, Jay, I'm just playing. I'm just joking with you. I do that to all the kids when they turn 18. And she said, you were just joking. I get it. But she said, I was just thinking, I'm 18. I got to get out. I have one. So she still didn't get it. But one of the things that really helped her, though, is she was having a hard time in middle of school and junior high when everybody's being sarcastic, right? And you have to be careful because if kids don't get sarcasm, other kids can be mean to them and set them up and do bad things to them. And so we were praying. And we were like, Lord, she's got to get it. How do we help her? And I don't care what people say. It's what the Lord said. He said, have her to watch The Simpsons and Family Guy. I was like, what? But we did. And we watched them with her. And she started to understand some of the things they were saying were not literal. And after years or two of watching it, she didn't even watch those anymore. But she started to understand. So then when she started to read stuff in books that were sarcasm, she got it. And sometimes people go, oh, that's sarcasm, right? And sometimes it seemed sarcastic that she was actually saying to her brother, oh, that's sarcasm, right? But she was really identifying it. And so, think just things like that. You know, the Lord will help you and show you. And again, it is so unique for every child. What Ms. Johnson did may be something that I did. What I did may be something that she did, but we also may do two very different things that work for both of our children.
Yeah, you have to customize it to fit for you. Like I can take a little bit of what you said, but I got to customize it because Darius and Jordan, two different people, you know. But I remember when I first heard that diagnosis and the lady was like, I'm sorry. And my knees shaking. I'm about to cry, not understanding, a new mom, not knowing what's going on. And I said, God don't make mistakes. I mean, when she said that, it came from something because I was like, did I say that? Do I believe? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I said, God don't make mistakes. And my prayer was, God, you gave him to me. Give me what I need to take care of him. And I do feel like that's how we are here now, is because I see you gave him to me. Please give me what I need to take care of him.
You know, it's so because that's the scripture, right? The word says, if any person lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to him unabraded, and he gives it to him liberally. So when you say, I don't know how to take care of this, I don't know how to deal with this, but there's not a person on this planet God doesn't know intimately. So God knows Darius intimately, he knows Jordan intimately, and anybody who's listening, he knows your child intimately, and he knows exactly what your child needs in order to function at their optimum level. We have to be willing to hear God, and even in the face of experts, even in the face of people are telling you to do something different, follow what God is saying. There's nothing, but you got to be a learner, right? You got to sit back and wait for somebody to give you the answers. You got to go seeking. You know, the Bible tells us if you knock, the door will be open. If you seek, you shall find. Same thing is true. That's about finding Jesus, but the same thing is true about finding your answer.
Finding your way, finding your why, even, you know. But that is absolutely true because I'm always saying people like, how do you do it? How do you? And when I'm speaking it, like you said this, I'm like, sometimes I don't even write it down because I want it to come from here. Because I always say, God, you know what they need to hear. I don't help me say what they need to hear, you know, because I pray about everything. So when I speak, it's coming from here because I ask for, you know, because I teach that parent to help. I'm helping people. People are listening to me because, you know, this is my assignment, you know, so people are listening to me for help. But also, like you were saying, the doctors, people, we get so wrapped up in they have the education. I don't care how many years you went to school, you don't know autism like I know autism. You know, it's totally different perspective when you're living it every day. That's totally different. So don't get, you know, when people say, oh, they're a doctor, okay, we can teach each other, but I live this every day. I don't turn it off. You know, it doesn't end at 5. It doesn't end at my last patient.
Right.
You know, this is every day. So don't get intimidated thinking that they know more than you because they don't. You know, they don't, they know, and you know what they need to know because God puts everybody in place. But don't get caught up in their place that you forget that you have a place on this journey as well.
Yeah. And I'll go on, push it a little bit further. They don't know as much as you, and you don't know as much as God.
Exactly.
You know, and so taking it to that, God still can tell you, no, you can push them harder in that area, or they can do this.
Like
or,
when
you know,
I
God
almost
can tell you things that maybe you didn't realize.
When I almost said, no, you can't stay here by yourself. And I said, yes, you can. You know,
and so often we don't realize this, but it's true of all children. They rise to the level of expectation that we have for them. So many times with people who have children with various challenges, we actually, if we're not careful, we find ourselves lowering the expectation for them. So if you lower the expectation and all they do is rise to that lower expectation, then they never get to their maximum potential. And so when you make the decision to, wait a minute, yes, he can't stay at home. Well, now you see he can stay at home. But if you never gave him that opportunity, if that expectation always that he can't do it, he'd have never rose above that.
And that helps me to where I don't have to take them with me if I'm just running to the store or have my mama take them over there. If I'm just doing, that helps me to be able to let me go and I call, hey, y'all good? You know, yeah, we're good. You know, being able to not have to get somebody watching it. I got to go pick them across town. You know, that I'm like, well, this is easy, you know, but you just have to trust and believe they can do it.
Yep.
So any I guess, success stories you want to share to end us out, and then any advice you have for someone who is still navigating. I mean, obviously, we're all still navigating the journey, right? But maybe their children are younger, and any words of wisdom or success stories you want to share as we end.
I would say is find your place in it. You change the narrative. Um, don't listen to all the don'ts and the can'ts and the won'ts, and find the do's. Find what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look at my story and think your story should be like mine, because I'm in awe of Jordan. I'm like, I want to meet her, because meeting somebody who's different, that's some things that you don't necessarily think about. But finding your way, being the biggest advocate, supporting your child, understanding, and giving yourself grace. Yes, sometimes Darius will have the same conversation like over and over and over. And there's some days where I don't feel like doing this, but he needs that. So I take a deep breath and I'm like, okay, giving him what he needs. Because imagine how he feels, having to do it or needing to do it. So it's just finding your place, because if I hadn't, when he was 2 years old and he spoke and I'm thinking that he can't talk, then we wouldn't be to where he can go to work and I drop him off and he calls me when he's done, or he can, when his best friend goes, we all go to the same church, he get his offering and he go sit with him. He don't sit with me. We never would have gotten to that place if we didn't allow them to, make safe mistakes or allow them to do that on their own. So now he's like, okay, he be over there doing whatever he needs to do, what he wants to do, and getting that independence. It's just, it's not going to be easy. You're not going to get it right every time. Some people are like, oh, you're so amazing. And I'd be like, where at? I'm still finding my way. But I just believe also, this is my thing, that if my children can leave this house every day in a world that's not really designed for them, how can I be? If I'm telling them to be happy and encouraging, then I have to lead by example. I have to say, I can't do it. Yes, you can. You can, like you were saying earlier, it may take us 15 steps, may take you 2, but just finding your own way and advocating for yourself and believing in yourself and your child, because you won't get it right every day. Sometimes Darius is doing something, I'm like, where'd he get that from? Because every day is a celebration. If you change it, like you said, he'll do this, and I'm like, all right, good job. So we're always celebrating something. Celebrate the small things. Don't expect the sentences. Take the word. Take the sound. You may, have to start out with the sound of it. Just encourage them. I would tell Darius when I found out he could talk, that I don't care if you use the wrong word, use a word. Give me something. It's like demand something. Cup, something. And that goes to that conversation. But like I said, don't underestimate them. Don't shrink down to where you think they understand. Give them those challenges. And Darius works every day. He does things that I didn't think he would do, because I was like, okay, we got to do this. But, just don't give up and don't try to do it by yourself. There are people that are willing to help. Some people call me, they text me, I may have one eye open, but I'm listening, I'm trying to help. But just understand that there's help out there. I thank God for my village. Like my family is there. We all live close to each other. And if it wasn't, but some people don't have that. Some people literally are disowned because of their child. Like nobody but themselves, So I thank God for my village, because that's why I'm able to do what I do, because I have people that are in place that can help me. But you have to find your village. Your village may not be related to you. They might not be the same race. They might whatever, but your village is your village. So just lean on your village.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't say it any better than that. When I think about the successes, today's Jordan's birthday. I think about her. She sent a picture this morning where she said her floor mates had decorated her door. And if you had known Jordan years ago, one of our things was, how is she going to do when she leaves us? Is she going to have friends? Is she going to be able to make those connections? Is she going to feel alone? And the reality of it is Jordan has never felt alone. even when she was alone, she has never felt alone. But to see her learning people's names and making those connections, and something as simple as her and her friends leaving campus and going to Walmart for grocery shopping and coming back, and I mean, just simple things. Her being able to use her debit card and to function and go to
Every little
school.
thing.
We asked her about her grades, and she was like, midterms are coming up. We asked her how she felt. She said, well, I'm a little nervous because I never really took like big midterms before. But she did. She thought she did well. So just, I mean, those are just things that you have to give God praise for, right? I saw someone early in the comment section who had mentioned that they noticed that their child was a little different when they were younger, but they didn't get a diagnosis until they were like 12 or 13. The thing I would say to people who are out there listening right now, you have to be an advocate for your child. And if you notice something that may be different in a way that's drastically different from your other children, don't be afraid to go have that checked out. In the comment section, I think they said, I just wanted them to be normal, and I think that's sometimes we almost make it like if our child has a diagnosis of anything, that's somehow a negative reflection on us. I don't know if other cultures feel that way. I know a lot of African Americans I spoke to feel that way. And I think we got to get over that. We need to get to the place where we really do have the understanding that again, I go back to the speech I used to give. If my child need glasses, I wouldn't hesitate to get them glasses. If you had a child with a hearing aid, you wouldn't hesitate to get them a hearing aid. So if your child has something that identifies them on the spectrum and they need some kind of assistance, it's not a bad thing to get them that assistance. It's not a negative reflection of you.
Let me jump in. I think what you're saying, or what I'm hearing, is that denial, and they believe that that's faith. If I deny it, I'm operating in faith. And I think we have to separate. Faith is based on a word from God. It's not necessarily denying what you see. Faith says, okay, this is what I see now. God, what do you say about this situation? As opposed to just saying, nope, they're fine. They're just like everybody else. Well, you're actually doing your child a disservice by not getting them the tools and the things that are out there. And so that's that.
You have to acknowledge it for what it is. You don't have to accept it, but acknowledge what it is, and let's fix it. And stop. Different does not mean less. Acknowledge it. What do I need to do to make him happy, successful? I always say normal is boring. We don't want to be normal. What do you call normal? Is whatever I call normal. But we have this stereotypes and these stigmas that you're not normal. You have to be able to do this. Darius is Darius. Don't compare him to this person. He is on the level that he's supposed to be on. That's who he is. It's just, I think the labels, we get caught up in the label, and if he, like you said, if you need that help, get that help. You don't have to own that. I always tell people, I said, Darius has autism. Autism does not have him.
And I think that language is so important. It's the reason you keep hearing me use the word diagnosed.
Which is why I said it the way I did on my
You'll never hear us say Jordan has autism. Jordan has. We always say diagnosed because those things don't have her. And we don't claim them to be who she is. It's not her identity. And I think sometimes people get, you talked about labels. People get caught up into
that label.
Things like, they actually identify and say, oh, this is my autistic child. No,
I'll be like, no,
don't introduce them to me like that. It's not your autistic child. This is Johnny. This is Aaron. Whatever their name is. I don't need to know that. That label doesn't define who they are. And so people have to be very, very careful. As we close, I'll say that. Be very, very careful about attaching that label to who they are as a person, because it's not.
Yes, acknowledge the person.
Yes.
And I even when I was doing the flyer, I made sure that I said parenting children diagnosed with, and that was really intentional, because it does become sometimes, and this is and not just with autism, this is overall, people will take a diagnosis and identify so strongly with that they won't, like Wyletta was saying, there is no, my child can talk. It's the doctor said this and this is what they got. So this is what it is. Like,
And
no.
people will fight you over those labels. I remember being in a meeting, and it's not about autism, but I was in a meeting where the child had been diagnosed or identified as having oppositional defiant disorder. And we were telling the mother that basically he behaves at school, so we didn't really need this bib. And she's like, "Oh no, he's ODD. He doesn't listen to me." We were like, you put such a label on him that he can't follow you, that he's living up to your expectations at home. So we have to be careful about those labels.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate both of you. Any parting words before we close?
Thanks for having this platform.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for doing this. I appreciate it.
Able to tune in. I've seen lots of people in the comments who had things to say, and hopefully, something's been said or done. They got people on here they can reach out to. I'm not an autism fairy, but Miss Johnson is. So you better reach out if you need some assistance. But if you are struggling with a school and the school is not responding to you in an appropriate manner, I can supply you with the tools and resources so that when you go into that meeting, they'll know that you're not playing around. Because one thing they have to do is they have to abide by the law. The law in this case is your friend. And if you know it, it could be your best friend.
So y'all heard him. So reach out if you say, I need to know how to advocate. Because going in there cursing people out is not advocating.
That's not advocating.
You have to know.
Right. Look, I might have to call my friend after, but they're not gonna get that.
Right, that's right. That'll get you put out the room.
Yeah, and then then you have that label of being that parent. So you don't want to do that. You want to lead with the facts and not emotions.
That's right.
Yeah, and so call or not call, but reach out to Dr. Strickland. If you want to say, he may point you in the right direction of some resources. Reach out to Wyletta if you're having some questions. And I've said in multiple meetings from the mental health perspective, and saw those parents who came in with knowledge and those who didn't. And the difference is night and day. It really is. It's again, you have the ones that come in cursing and they're like, man, we're not going to deal with this. Put them out. And that meeting's going to go real fast. But then you have those that come in and say, well, according to this is what my child has a right to. And sometimes that does make the school have to shift a little bit. They have to shift. So thank you both so much. You have given so much knowledge, so much wisdom. Y'all know I'm a counselor, but I'm a believer. And so I always say, don't leave God out of this equation. Don't leave him out of the miraculous to give you a plan of how your child can take it a step further and talk and do different things that maybe experts said they could. Don't forget the God piece.
And I would say, in close, I would say that I do a lot of speaking, and I know at one time somebody was, I referred to as my faith in God, and they didn't like that. And so I said, listen, if I can't talk about God, I can't come because I can't tell that story without it. So I'm just gonna be standing there with my looking because I can't open my mouth without adding that, because that's the only way we are where we are.
So again, thank you guys. Even we're ending this, but you guys go ahead and share this broadcast. I know there are a lot of people that could use this information. Share, tag friends. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Let us know in the comments your biggest takeaway, things you learned, and how you can use this information. You guys remember, next week, we will be right back here, Minding My Mental Health, every Thursday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're tearing down the stigma of mental health treatment and bringing awareness to our community. Thank you so much. And I enjoyed this conversation. Bye-bye.